Hello, my name is Judith VanBoven, and today I'll be presenting to you guys the outcome of childhood trauma in adulthood for my Research Methods 2 project. So today, the things that I'll be talking to you guys about is why I was interested. I'll be defining the constructs and previous research that I found during my research for this class and for this assignment. I'll be talking about my current studies, my methods, and the results and future research. So to begin, why was I interested? I believe that childhood trauma is a very important topic to discuss here in America and all over the world. I myself am not a victim of childhood trauma, but I do have a lot of people close to me and stories that I've heard, personal stories I've heard of people who have experienced childhood trauma at a young age. So I believe that this is really important because childhood trauma can affect a child's mental, emotional, physical well-being and their brain health, as well as their brain development as they're growing up. A couple things I have that really truly interest me as to why I chose this topic is because I've witnessed some people's personal experience of this, and I think it's really important that students and children growing up, as well as their families, are able to understand the healing and truly understand how things in their childhood can impact them as they get older. So here is a diagram of the brain development over time. So a child's brain does not fully develop until age 25 through 30, and that is for both male and female. And so here you see that Miss Jane Doe has, her brain is still developing between the ages of 25 and 30. She is a female, and so when people do like diagnosis for social phobia or childhood trauma, it's usually helpful to ask whether they have experienced childhood trauma and what effects do they have in their adulthood, such as social life or other mental issues that they may have. So right here you'll see there's a timeline, 2001, which is the birth of Ms. Jane Doe, through 2012, and then up to 2020 for her age. So some of my defining constructs and previous research that I have was what is childhood trauma? Childhood trauma is very broad and can be spoken and understood in many different ways. One person's childhood trauma might be different than another person's. So childhood trauma is any form of abuse, neglect, or traumatic experience that a child has gone through, such as rape, sexual assault, verbal, mental, physical abuse, domestic violence in the home, when a child has witnessed a death in the home, or any type of war or famine or an illness that a child has experienced during their childhood. And then adult social phobia is the social anxiety disorder that shows signs and characteristics of being fearful of being in large crowds, very crowded areas, spaces, in public, in a social setting, or even when they feel judged by others. So some of the research that I have added in my topic and in my paper that have been researched earlier in previous times were the psychiatric conditions of social phobia onset, and sexual abuse and anxiety disorder. So with psychiatric conditions, a study by Getty and his research cohort it explains how psychiatric conditions can also implement and affect people in their adulthood as they grow up who have experienced childhood trauma. And then sexual abuse and anxiety disorder has been shown in research that if a child has experienced any type of sexual abuse at a young age, when they grow up, they are more at risk to develop in be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So my current study, my two hypotheses is adult social phobia that has been diagnosed will be associated with the amount of childhood trauma experienced in that person's life. My second hypothesis is childhood trauma will be associated to the social phobia that an adult experiences and the quality of their life or emotional health. So we're going into the methods section of my assignment, of my project. With this, it was very exciting being able to conduct the research, put my survey out there, and be able to collect the data for this research. So at the end of my research and collecting the data, I was able to achieve and get 67 participants. The way I did this, I sent out Google Forms to friends, families through email and social media and by word of mouth. I also asked my workplace and my coworkers if they could be a part of this study as well, and they were more than happy to. For this, the gender ratio of this for female was 64.2%, and the male was 34.3%. The age ranged from 18 to age 56, and the demographic of my participants is listed: Caucasians 19.4%, Black and African Americans 59.7%, Hispanic and Latino 3%, Asian 6%, Native American 0%, and other 0%, and 1.5% of my participants would rather not respond. In the Google survey, I was able to implement 8 questions surrounding the participants' childhood trauma, their social well-being, along with their adult social phobia if they had one or if they didn't, and I asked them to explain certain experiences or traumatic experiences that they have as a child versus when they're as an adult, and if they've been healed or if they're doing the work and process to heal that traumatic experience that they have been through. So my results and future research. So my first hypothesis was supported by the results, but the second hypothesis was rejected and was not supported. I believe that the reason of this is due to the fact that not everyone who experiences a childhood trauma will ultimately be diagnosed with a social phobia, adult social phobia. Through my research, a lot of the times the people who were the participants who were a part of the study indicated that yes, they did go through a social phobia, but they do feel better now as an adult and they feel like they've healed. On the other hand, there were some people who also did not go through any type of childhood trauma or traumatic experiences at a young age, but they did end up having a social phobia or social anxiety. So my hypothesis too was not supported by that. And then as you can see here, childhood trauma, the correlation between that was M equals 7.25, and then the standard deviation is 3.8. The same thing down here for the positive correlation between adult social phobia and childhood trauma. As you can see, M equals 9.133, and the standard deviation when I calculated on SPSS was 2.99416. This is a scatter plot of the findings from my research, from the extracted directly from the Google survey and from my 67 participants. So it just kind of shows you where people were within the spectrum of adult social phobia and childhood trauma. Here are my references. Thank you so much for giving me your time and listening to my presentation. I feel so blessed, and I'm excited to see where this topic goes for future research and how implications can affect kids who may now be going through any type of childhood trauma, or adults who are struggling with social anxiety or social phobia at the moment. Thank you. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email and my number is listed down below. Thank you. Bye.